The Last War God. The silence of Titan's methane seas stretched across General Marcus Vero's view from his solitary outpost. Stationed on Saturn's largest moon by choice, the legendary military strategist, Earth's last war god, had deliberately chosen exile 8 years ago. His weathered face, lined with the memories of 100 battles, reflected on the amber monitor before him. Nothing ever changed in this desolate sanctuary, and that was precisely how he wanted it. Station log, day 3012. Vero spoke to his automated recorder. All systems nominal. No communications from Earth Command. His voice carried the weight of someone who had seen too much, ordered too many to their deaths, and borne the responsibility of humanity's survival during the Nexus conflict. Mars' colony had nearly fallen. Earth might have been next. But Vero had implemented the controversial Lazarus Directive, an all-or-nothing strategy that sacrificed 14 battle cruisers to create an opening for a precision strike on the Nexus flagship. 40,000 human lives exchanged for the survival of billions. The military celebrated him. Politicians feared him. Civilians didn't know whether to build statues or hold trials. So Vero had removed himself from the equation, requesting isolation on this remote monitoring station, ostensibly to watch for external threats. In reality, Earth's upper echelon had been relieved to see their most dangerous asset voluntarily cage himself. The general's daily routine never varied. System diagnostics at 600, perimeter sweeps at 900, signal monitoring until 1400, followed by physical training and tactical simulations. Today should have been no different, until the impossible happened. At precisely 11:47 hours, every communication system in his station activated simultaneously. Screens flashed with warning symbols as an incoming signal bypassed encryption protocols that should have been impenetrable. Computer, identify signal source, Vero commanded, his dormant battle instincts awakening. Unable to comply. Signal origin outside known coordinate mapping. The computer's voice remained calm while Vero's pulse accelerated. The main screen flickered before resolving into a visual he couldn't immediately comprehend. The beings displayed had translucent skin that seemed to contain swirling galaxies within their forms. Their three-lobed heads were crowned with delicate filaments that trembled as they spoke. "This is the final transmission of the Lumina Collective," came the translated voice, its tone musical even in distress. "Our civilization faces extinction at the hands of the Vrax Imperium. We broadcast this message to any species capable of receiving it. We have always been a peaceful people, lacking the knowledge of warfare. The Vrax take our worlds, harvest our resources, and enslave our people." Vero leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. The being's form flickered as explosions rocked whatever structure they were broadcasting from. "Our scholars discovered ancient texts speaking of a species that once defended the weak against aggressors, before the Great Silence. If any trace of humanity still exists, if Earth still stands, we invoke the Forgotten Accord." We. The transmission cut to static as the being was thrown violently by another explosion. For 3 seconds, the screen showed only chaos before resolving on a final image, the being's face close to the camera, ethereal tears streaming down their luminous face. "Please," they whispered, "find the last war god." Then nothing. Vero sat motionless for several minutes after the screen went dark. Earth had maintained its isolation policy for decades following the Nexus conflict. No signals out, minimal exploration, a defensive perimeter stretching to Jupiter's orbit. Humanity had turned inward, focusing on rebuilding what had been lost. Yet somehow, these beings, these Lumina, knew of Earth. They knew of humanity's martial history, possibly even of Vero himself. His fingers moved automatically to his communications panel. Computer, establish secure link to Earth Command. Working. The system responded. Channel open. Admiral Chen's face appeared on the screen. Her expression shifted from administrative politeness to genuine surprise. "General Vero, this is unexpected. Admiral, I've received an unauthorized transmission from beyond our perimeter. non-human origin. Vero's voice remained measured, revealing nothing of his inner turmoil. Chen's eyes widened. Impossible. The quantum field should prevent. Nevertheless, it happened. The message was a distress call from a species identifying themselves as the Lumina. They're being systematically eradicated by something called the Vrax Imperium. I'll dispatch a team to analyze your systems for malfunction or tampering, Chen replied, her bureaucratic instincts taking over. In the meantime, I'll need a full report. They asked for me, Vero interrupted, by title, if not by name. Chen fell silent, her expression hardening. This changes nothing, General. The non-intervention directive remains in effect. Earth cannot, will not, engage in external conflicts again. Vero nodded slowly. I understand the directive, Admiral. I helped write it. Then we have nothing more to discuss. Your recording of this alleged transmission will be analyzed. Maintain your post. The connection terminated, leaving Vero alone with the echoing plea of the dying alien. He turned to stare out at Titan's barren landscape, the methane lakes shimmering under the distant sun. For 8 years, he had accepted his exile. For 8 years, he had buried the commander within him. But the luminous cry had unearthed something he thought long dead, a sense of purpose beyond atonement. Computer, he said quietly, access my personal archives. Military authorization, Vero Alpha 7 Echo. Archives accessed. Warning, these files have been officially sealed. Display the schematics for the ESV Nemesis. The computer complied, projecting the detailed plans for Vero's former command vessel, the most advanced warship Earth had ever built, now decommissioned and docked at the Luna shipyards. Vero studied the schematics with the focus of a man rediscovering his true nature. The Nemesis had been his home for 15 years, the vessel from which he had directed humanity's most crucial campaigns. She had been stripped of her primary weapon systems and redesignated as a museum piece, a reminder of a more violent era humanity preferred to forget. But Vero knew better. A ship like the Nemesis was never truly disarmed. Her secondary systems alone could outmatch most fighting vessels, and her true strength had always been her adaptive architecture, designed to integrate and improve upon any technology she encountered. Computer, secure all station logs from the last hour. Authorization Vero Omega Prime. Logs secured and isolated. Vero moved to his quarters and opened a storage unit untouched for years. Inside lay his military uniform, medals still attached, the 5 stars of his rank catching the light. Beside it rested a small device, a quantum communicator keyed to a very specific frequency. He activated it. Nemesis actual to sleeper cell Prometheus. Authentication code. The war god wakes at Twilight's call. 30 seconds passed before a response came. Prometheus acknowledges. The forge awaits your command. Prepare for reactivation. 72 hours. Understood. Prometheus standing by. Vero shut down the communicator and returned to his monitoring station. For the first time in 8 years, he felt truly alive. He knew what awaited him if he proceeded: court-martial, imprisonment, possibly execution for treason. Earth's ruling council had been clear. The era of military adventurism was over. Humanity would defend its own borders and nothing more. But something deeper than loyalty to Earth drove him now. The luminous plea had awakened a fundamental truth Vero had always understood. Power carried obligation. Humanity had survived its darkest hour because of its willingness to fight. Now another species faced extinction because they lacked that capacity. As he began meticulously planning his departure, Vero recalled an ancient quote from his military academy days. All that is necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. Earth had chosen to do nothing. But Marcus Vero, the last of Earth's legendary war gods, was about to do something that would shatter humanity's isolation and change the course of galactic history. Breaking chains. 71 hours after receiving the luminous distress signal, General Marcus Vero stood in the abandoned maintenance corridor of Luna shipyards, his breath forming small clouds in the cold recycled air. He wore simple civilian attire, his military bearing concealed beneath a technician's uniform and slouched posture. The false credentials hanging from his neck identified him as Maintenance Specialist Marcus Vale, just another anonymous worker in the vast orbital facility. The Luna shipyards had once been the crown jewel of Earth's military-industrial complex, churning out battleships and carriers during the Nexus conflict. Now it served primarily as a museum and research facility, with only defensive platforms and patrol vessels still in active production. Security remained tight, not against external threats, but to ensure Earth's war machines stayed permanently decommissioned. Vero checked his neural implants chronometer. 23:42 Standard Earth Time. 3 members of Sleeper Cell Prometheus should have already infiltrated key positions throughout the shipyard. The 4th would be waiting for him ahead. As he approached a sealed bulkhead marked Historical Preservation Zone, authorized personnel only, a shadowy figure emerged from a maintenance alcove. "The stars burn cold tonight," the figure murmured, a woman's voice with the clear precision of military training. "But fire remembers its nature," Vero responded, completing the recognition code. The woman stepped into the dim light, revealing a face Vero hadn't seen in 8 years. Commander Elise Kwan had been his tactical officer during the Nexus conflict, the architect behind some of humanity's most daring maneuvers. Her eyes, sharp as ever, assessed her former commander. "You look like hell, sir," she said, the ghost of a smile crossing her face. "Retirement doesn't suit me," Vero replied dryly. "Status report. Chen's team is starting to investigate your station's malfunction. You've got maybe 18 hours before they realize you're gone." Kwan pressed her palm against a hidden scanner beside the bulkhead. "Rivera has control of the security grid. Park is in life support systems. Ortega has engineering covered." The massive door slid open with a hydraulic hiss, revealing the cavernous exhibition hall. Floating in a gravity null field at the center of the hall, illuminated by dramatic spotlights, hung the ESV Nemesis. Even stripped of her primary weapons, and with power systems dormant, the vessel commanded respect. Her angular hull was scarred with impact marks from a dozen battles, each dent and scoring a testament to her resilience. At 820 meters from bow to stern, she wasn't the largest ship humanity had built, but she had been the most lethal combination of speed, adaptability, and firepower ever designed. "She's been waiting for you," Kwan said softly. Vero approached the security field surrounding his former command, eyes moving systematically across the hull, noting every modification and removal made during her decommissioning. "They've gutted her main railguns and missile batteries." "On the surface, yes," Kwan acknowledged. But Rivera discovered something interesting. The removal was mostly cosmetic. The underlying launch systems and power conduits remain intact. "Bureaucratic oversight." Vero raised an eyebrow. "More like quiet resistance. The technicians assigned to decommission her were all veterans. They followed the letter of their orders, but not the spirit." Kwan activated her neural implant, sending a coded signal through the shipyard systems. The security field around the Nemesis flickered and died. Simultaneously, the exhibition hall's main doors sealed shut, and the monitoring cameras froze on repetitive loops. "We have 30 minutes before the automated system check flags the anomalies," Kwan reported. Vero nodded. "Then let's not waste time." They made their way to the Nemesis via the maintenance scaffolding, finding an access hatch near the vessel's midsection. Inside, emergency lighting activated automatically, casting long shadows down the familiar corridors. Vero moved with purpose toward the bridge, his muscle memory guiding him through the ship that had been his home for so many years. The bridge was precisely as he remembered, though covered in a thin layer of dust, a relic preserved for visitors to admire from behind velvet ropes. Vero settled into the command chair, his hands finding the neural interface panels on the armrests. "System. Recognize user. General Marcus Vero. Authorization code Thermopylae Phoenix 73. For several seconds, Nothing happened. Then the bridge hummed to life. Screens activating, systems initializing, the ship awakening from her long slumber. Voice pattern authenticated. The ship's AI announced, "Welcome back, General Vero." Status report. Vero commanded, feeling the familiar neural connection establishing itself, the ship becoming an extension of his consciousness. Primary systems at 42% capacity. Weapons systems offline. Navigation systems calibrating. Life support operational. Fuel cells at 31% capacity. Vero frowned. That's not enough to break Earth's gravity well, let alone make an interstellar jump. Which is why we brought this, came a new voice from the bridge entrance. Chief Engineer Diego Ortega entered, pushing a hovering cargo container. Experimental antimatter catalysts. One thimbleful can power the Nemesis for a month. Vero nodded in acknowledgement as Quan's neural implant chirped. "Rivera says we've been discovered," she reported, tension evident in her voice. Security teams converging from 3 directions. Time to departure. Vero asked Ortega. 10 minutes for minimal function. 15 for optimal. We don't have 15. Vero's fingers danced across the command console. Quan, get to tactical. Ortega, install those catalysts. Everyone else to their stations. The small team moved with practiced efficiency, 5 people handling a ship designed for a crew of hundreds. As they worked, Vero accessed the shipyard's communication array, broadcasting on a private military channel. "Admiral Chen, this is General Vero." After a brief pause, Chen's face appeared on the main screen, her expression a mixture of anger and disbelief. "You've lost your mind, General. Whatever you're planning stops now." "I received a distress call," Vero replied calmly. "Earth chose to ignore it. I cannot." "That call was a fabrication, a test of our isolation protocols. There is no luminous species, no Vrax Imperium. It was a security drill, and you failed spectacularly." Chen's eyes narrowed. "Stand down immediately." Vero paused, his hand hovering over the controls. "A test. One you were never meant to act upon," Chen confirmed. "Your response profile is being evaluated. This exercise is over." For a moment, doubt crept into Vero's mind. Had he been manipulated? Had his desire to matter again, to serve again, blinded him? Then he noticed something. A subtle tension around Chen's eyes, a slight elevation in her vocal pattern. Signs he had been trained to recognize. She was lying. If it was just a test, Vero said slowly, "Why deploy armed security teams instead of simply shutting down the Nemesis remotely?" Chen's expression hardened. "That's classified." "No," Vero countered. "You can't shut her down because I've reactivated her original command protocols, which you never fully understood. And you're sending armed teams because the transmission was real, and you're terrified of what will happen if I answer it. You don't understand the political realities. I understand that a species is dying while we debate." Vero cut her off. "The decision is made, Admiral. Departure in 30 seconds, Ortega announced from engineering." Chen's voice became desperate. "Vero, listen to me. The Council signed non-intervention agreements after the Nexus conflict. If you do this, you'll trigger a diplomatic crisis that could lead to another war." Vero's expression remained impassive. "Then perhaps you should have told me that instead of lying about the transmission." "Goodbye, Admiral." He terminated the connection as warning klaxons began blaring throughout the shipyard. On the tactical display, Vero could see security vessels scrambling to intercept. "Dock locks disengage," reported Dr. Sarah Park from the operations console. "Main engine coming online. Hull integrity at 97%. "Defense systems?" Vero asked. "Minimal point defense capabilities only," Quan responded. "We can swat away drones, but not much else." "It'll have to do." Vero opened the ship-wide communication channel. "This is General Vero to all hands. Secure for emergency departure." The Nemesis shuddered as her engines ignited, pushing against the artificial gravity of the exhibition hall. Warning shots from security drones flashed past the bridge viewport. "They're targeting our engine nacelles," Quan reported. "Evasive pattern Delta," Vero ordered. "Full thrust once we clear the dock." The Nemesis responded sluggishly at first, then with increasing confidence as dormant systems reactivated. She rolled sharply, evading the first wave of security drones, then accelerated toward the massive bay doors that separated the exhibition hall from open space. "Those doors are sealed, sir," Rivera pointed out from the navigation station. "Then we make our own exit." Vero directed all available power to the ship's reinforced bow. "Brace for impact." The Nemesis slammed into the bay doors at a precisely calculated angle. Metal screamed against metal as the doors buckled under the impact. Space beyond beckoned as atmosphere vented explosively through the widening gap. "Push through," Vero commanded. With a final surge of power, the Nemesis broke free, emerging into the starlit void above Luna. Behind them, emergency force fields activated to contain the exhibition hall's breach. "Multiple pursuit vessels launching," Quan reported. "Intercept in 3 minutes. Set course for the Jupiter gravity slingshot," Vero ordered. "Prepare for antimatter catalyst injection on my mark." The ship accelerated away from Luna as Earth's defense grid activated. Warning shots illuminated space around them. "They're trying to force us back, not destroy us," Rivera observed. "For now," Vero agreed. "That will change when they realize we're actually leaving the system." "Ortega, status on the catalyst." "Ready when you are," the engineer replied. "But sir, once we initiate, there's no turning back. The reaction will damage the conventional drive beyond repair." Vero nodded grimly. "We crossed that line the moment we took this ship." As the Nemesis approached Jupiter's massive gravitational field, Earth's pursuit vessels closed the gap. Warning shots became targeted attacks on non-essential systems. "Hull breach in cargo section 3, Park reported. "Sealing, now." "All hands, secure for maximum acceleration," Vero commanded. "Ortega, inject the catalyst." Deep within the ship's engineering section, antimatter met matter in a carefully controlled reaction. Energy surged through systems designed to channel only a fraction of such power. The Nemesis lurched forward with sudden, incredible speed, her frame groaning under forces it was never meant to withstand. The pursuing vessels fell away as if standing still. Jupiter's massive form swung into view, then passed in a blur as the Nemesis used its gravity to slingshot toward the outer solar system. "Course for the Kuiper belt," Vero ordered. "Once we're beyond Pluto's orbit, plot a jump to the Lumina coordinates." The bridge fell silent as the enormity of what they had done sank in. They had stolen a military vessel, violated Earth's isolation protocols, committed treason in the eyes of the government they had once served. "Sir," Quan finally spoke, her voice solemn. "You should know, we all understood the consequences when we agreed to this mission. Whatever happens, none of us regret standing with you." Vero studied the faces of his small crew, veterans who had fought alongside him, believed in him, and now risked everything to follow him into the unknown. They had broken their chains not just to Earth, but to a philosophy of isolation they could no longer accept. "The Lumina called for the last war god," he said quietly. "But it's not me they're getting. It's us. And may whatever gods the Vracs worship have mercy on them, because we will not." As Earth's sun diminished to a bright star behind them, the Nemesis accelerated toward a conflict none of them fully understood, carrying the last vestiges of humanity's warrior spirit to answer a desperate cry for help. First contact. The void between stars stretched before the Nemesis like an endless ocean. General Vero stood at the forward observation deck, watching the unfamiliar constellation slowly shift as the ship hurtled through space at velocities that defied conventional physics. The antimatter catalyst had performed beyond Ortega's wildest expectations, propelling them far beyond Earth's reach within hours. That had been 12 days ago. 12 days of preparation, planning, and contemplation of what awaited them. Final approach in 30 minutes, sir, Commander Quan reported as she joined him at the viewport. We'll exit hyperspace at the edge of the system. Vero nodded, his eyes still fixed on the distorted starfield. What's our intelligence picture? Limited, Quan admitted, bringing up a holographic display between them. We've been passively scanning since we entered this sector. The system contains 7 planets orbiting a G-type star similar to Sol. The third planet appears to be the Lumina homeworld, or was. She paused, her expression grim. Current readings show massive thermal disruptions consistent with orbital bombardment. The Vrax. Almost certainly. We've detected 23 vessels in orbit around the planet. Based on energy signatures, they're significantly larger than the Nemesis, though technologically different. Different how? Quan frowned. Their propulsion and weapons systems operate on principles I don't fully understand. Not more advanced, necessarily, but developed along a completely different technological path. Any sign of Lumina ships or installations? Scattered energy readings on the far side of the 4th planet. A gas giant. Could be survivors or automated systems. Vero absorbed this information methodically. Have Rivera adjust our exit coordinates. I want to emerge behind that gas giant, using it as cover. Quan nodded, then hesitated. Sir, I need to ask, what exactly is our mission parameter here? The original distress call asked for help, but what kind of help can 5 people in one ship provide against an invading fleet? Vero turned to study his tactical officer. A fair question. We're not here to win a war, Commander. We're here to change its course. He gestured to the star map. The Vrax have never encountered humans before. They have no idea what we're capable of, or what we're willing to do. Sometimes, the right catalyst at the right moment can alter the entire equation. You sound like you have a plan, sir. The beginnings of one. Vero's eyes narrowed. First, we need to make contact with any surviving Lumina. Then we need to understand exactly what kind of enemy we're facing. And then, a cold smile crossed Vero's face. Then we teach the Vrax why Earth quarantined itself from the rest of the galaxy. The Nemesis emerged from hyperspace in the shadow of a massive gas giant, its sensors immediately scanning for threats. The ship's adaptive camouflage activated, adjusting its energy signature to blend with the background radiation of the planet's intense magnetic field. Passive scans only, Vero ordered from the command chair. I don't want to announce our presence until we're ready. The bridge crew worked in focused silence, each monitoring their stations with the precision that came from years of combat experience. Despite being drastically undermanned, the Nemesis functioned with surprising efficiency thanks to its advanced automation systems and the crew's neural interfaces. I'm detecting a cluster of artificial structures on the 3rd moon, Rivera reported from navigation. Small scale, possibly a mining operation or research outpost. Life signs? Vero asked. Difficult to determine at this range without active scanning, Park replied from the science station. But I'm registering power fluctuations consistent with life support systems under strain. Could be survivors, Quan suggested. Vero considered his options. Take us in, minimal thrust. Maintain gas giant shadow for as long as possible. The Nemesis glided silently toward the moon. A barren, cratered sphere approximately half the size of Earth's Luna. As they drew closer, the artificial structures resolved into a collection of domed habitats interconnected by pressurized tunnels, partially built into the moon's surface. Definitely Lumina architecture, Park confirmed, comparing the structures to images from the original distress signal. And I'm now registering approximately 200 life signs, consistent with Lumina biosignatures. Any Vrax presence? Negative, though I'm detecting debris in orbit consistent with recent combat. Vero nodded. Open a communication channel, tight beam only. Channel open, Rivera confirmed. Vero leaned forward. This is General Marcus Vero of the Earth vessel Nemesis. We received your distress call and have come to offer assistance. Please respond. Seconds stretched into minutes with no reply. They may be afraid to respond, Quan suggested. Or their communication systems might be damaged. Or they don't trust us, Ortega added from the engineering station. We are complete aliens to them. After all, Vero was about to try again when the communication panel chimed. Incoming transmission, Rivera announced. Audio only. Put it through. The bridge speakers crackled with static before a voice emerged, melodic but strained with evident exhaustion and fear. Earth vessel. This is Administrator Lyra of Lumina Collective Outpost Sanctuary. Your appearance is unexpected. We had given up hope. We received your distress signal 12 Earth days ago, Vero responded. We came as quickly as we could. A pause. 12 days. Our broadcast was sent nearly 6 months ago. Vero exchanged glances with his officers. The temporal discrepancy suggested something about interstellar communications they didn't yet understand. We're here now, he stated simply. What's your situation? Critical, Lyra replied, her voice breaking slightly. This outpost houses our last 200 survivors. The Vrax destroyed our homeworld 3 weeks ago. We have limited supplies and failing life support. 2 Vrax hunter ships discovered us yesterday. We managed to destroy one with our last defensive measures, but the other escaped. We expect a full assault force within hours. Request permission to dock and render assistance, Vero said. Another pause, longer this time. Permission granted, Earth vessel. Sending coordinates now. As the Nemesis approached the designated landing area, a crater-based hangar barely large enough to accommodate the ship, Vero called his officers for a brief conference. We have limited time, he began. Park, you'll assess their medical and life support needs. Ortega, see what you can do to reinforce their defensive systems. Quan, Rivera, we need a complete tactical assessment of the Vrax capabilities. I need to know everything the Lumina can tell us about their enemy. And you, sir? Quan asked. I'll be speaking with their leadership. We need to understand exactly what we've stepped into. Vero's expression hardened. Make no promises about Earth's involvement beyond our ship. As far as anyone knows, we're acting independently. The docking procedure was tense but uneventful. As the airlock cycled, Vero prepared himself for humanity's first official contact with an alien species in decades. The inner door hissed open, revealing 3 Lumina standing in the reception area. Seeing them in person, Vero was struck by their ethereal beauty. Standing approximately 2 meters tall, their translucent skin truly did contain what looked like swirling galaxies or nebulae. Their 3 lobed heads featured no visible eyes, yet Vero sensed they were studying him intently. The filaments crowning their heads rippled gently, seeming to communicate emotion, or perhaps serving as sensory organs. I am Administrator Lyra, the central figure announced, placing 3 slender fingers against its chest in what Vero assumed was a greeting gesture. This is Defense Coordinator Ilara and Science Director Theron. Vero mimicked the gesture. General Marcus Vero. These are my officers, Quan, Rivera, Park, and Ortega. You are not what we expected, Lyra admitted, her voice containing subtle harmonics that the translation devices couldn't fully capture. The ancient text spoke of humans as formidable warriors, but physically, we're smaller than you anticipated, Vero finished with a slight smile. A common misunderstanding. Humanity's strength has never been purely physical. Yet you call yourself a war god, Ilara observed, her tone carrying a note of skepticism. A title given by others, not claimed by myself, Vero replied diplomatically. Now, Administrator, time is short. We need to understand what we're facing. Lyra nodded, leading them through crystal-lined corridors to a central chamber dominated by a holographic projection of the star system. The Lumina technology was elegant and advanced, yet used in ways that seemed counterintuitive to human sensibilities. The Vrax Imperium discovered our existence 8 standard cycles ago, Lyra explained, manipulating the hologram to show the initial encounter. We attempted peaceful contact, as is our way. They responded by capturing our diplomatic vessels and enslaving the crews. The hologram shifted to show the Vrax for the first time. Vero studied them carefully. Massive arthropoid creatures with segmented exoskeletons and multiple appendages. They moved with surprising grace for their bulk, suggesting an evolutionary history as apex predators. They communicate through chemical signatures and electromagnetic pulses, Theron explained. It took us time to decipher their language, by which point they had already begun systematic attacks on our outposts. Why? Park asked. What do they want from you? Resources, initially, Lyra replied. But we later discovered they harvest neurological material from sentient species. Our connection to what you might call the quantum substrate makes our neural tissues particularly valuable to them. Vero's expression darkened. They're consuming your brains. A crude but accurate assessment, Theron acknowledged. They process our neural tissues into compounds that enhance their own cognitive abilities and extend their lifespans. Quan looked revolted. You're saying they're intelligent enough for interstellar travel, yet still cannibalize other species. Not cannibalism from their perspective, Ilara corrected. They consider all non-Vrax to be resources, not people. Their philosophy denies sentience to any species unlike themselves. Vero studied the tactical display showing Vrax ship positions. Tell me about their military capabilities. Superior numbers and overwhelming force are their primary tactics, Ilara explained, bringing up schematics of Vrax vessels. Their weapons use directed plasma and gravitational distortion. Their hulls are composed of a regenerative metallic compound that can self-repair minor damage. Weaknesses, Vero pressed. Ilara hesitated. They're hierarchical to a fault. Each battle group is controlled by a queen ship. If the queen is destroyed or disabled, the subordinate vessels become disorganized for a time. She manipulated the display to highlight a massive ship at the center of the Vrax fleet. That is the dominant queen's vessel. It controls the entire invasion force. Vero absorbed this information, his mind already calculating possibilities. And your people? What defensive capabilities do you have left? The three Lumina exchanged what appeared to be troubled glances, though without visible eyes it was difficult for Vero to interpret their expressions. We are not warriors, General Vero, Lyra finally said. Our civilization developed without the evolutionary pressures that create predator species. We have some defensive technology, energy shields, disruptive fields, but nothing designed for aggressive action. You have no weapons at all, Rivera asked incredulously. We developed deterrence, Ilara clarified. But the concept of weapons designed specifically to kill other sentient beings, it is foreign to our evolutionary psychology. Vero studied the Lumina with newfound understanding. Their distress call suddenly made perfect sense. They were a species so fundamentally peaceful they couldn't comprehend the mindset needed to fight an existential threat. That's why you called for humanity, he said quietly. You needed someone who understands warfare. The ancient texts spoke of an accord between our peoples, Lyra explained. Before the Great Silence, humans protected younger species from predator races. The texts called you the war gods who chose peace, beings who understood violence but chose to use it only in defense of those who could not defend themselves. Vero exchanged glances with his officers, all of them processing the unexpected revelation. Humanity had apparently once played a role in galactic affairs that had been entirely forgotten, or deliberately erased from Earth's historical records. Before he could pursue this line of questioning further, alarms blared throughout the outpost. Vrax vessels detected entering the system, Ilara announced, her filaments rippling with obvious distress. 7 ships, including a sub-Queen-class cruiser. How long until they reach us? Vero demanded. Approximately 40 minutes at their current velocity. Vero's decision was immediate. Prepare to evacuate your people to the Nemesis. We can't defend this position. The Nemesis cannot possibly hold 200 Lumina, Quan objected. It doesn't need to for long. Varro turned to Lyra. Administrator, do your people have any remaining vessels capable of interstellar travel? One research ship with limited faster-than-light capability. Lyra confirmed, but it cannot outrun Vrak's pursuers. It won't need to. Varro activated his neural implant, connecting directly to the Nemesis systems. I need 40 minutes to implement our strategy. Can your defenses hold that long? Ilara's filaments drooped slightly. Perhaps 30 minutes at most before they overwhelm our shields. Then we have 30 minutes to change the rules of engagement. Varro's eyes held a cold determination that made even his own officers straighten. It's time the Vraks learned why other species once called humans war gods. As the Lumina rushed to prepare their people for evacuation, Varro gathered his team for a final briefing. The plan he outlined was audacious, possibly suicidal, and entirely contrary to conventional military doctrine. Exactly the kind of strategy that had earned him his reputation during the Nexus conflict. The last war god was about to demonstrate why predators should fear prey with proper guidance.